Time for a new segment here, finisher versus finisher, and this is a little bit similar to the top rope list and superstar scores and all that kind of stuff that we've done before. They're all like a little bit different and all very similar, just us comparing people and complaining and the typical shit. Uh, what this one is you take two or more wrestlers that have kind of become known for performing the same signature maneuver, and you compare them between however many people it is. It's going to be three for this episode if we can't think of any more. Um, and you just kind of figure out who owns the move, in the sense where, uh, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that, like, all right, well, one thing is there's no point in doing an episode about the mandible claw. That's obviously McFoley's move. So this is more so, let's take these moves that people have done.
Didn't Kerry Von Erich do a mandible claw?
Correct.
But to me,
Thank you.
All right, well, if we ever do that, my vote's going to McFoley then. But
Mick Foley was the guy who brought it out on national television, and
he's just the guy who did it with a sock.
Hey,
that's
you know what?
Made it mainstream-ish.
He also shoved his hand down his pants before he did it, so
But there's certain moves are known for certain people. The leg drop, you're first going to think Hulk Hogan most likely, and somebody says the bonsai drop, you're going to think of Yokozuna. But this is geared more towards the ones that people can do, amongst other people. We're going to do an episode eventually of the Sweet Chin music and other versions of the super kick. We're going to do the diamond cutter and the RKO and so on and so forth.
As soon as Sean retires, everyone's doing a super kick variation.
Yeah. So this week, I figured before we start getting into the build up to the WrestleMania stuff, because starting with, I think, March 1st, that show onward is going to be all WrestleMania themed for all of the specialty posts. This one, I need to keep it a little bit more up to date, where the only move that's really kind of changed over right now recently is the figure 4 leg lock, and that is Ric Flair kind of passing it on to The Miz. Three people that I brought up on the website for this is, off the top of my head, I could only think of Flair, Miz, and Jeff Jarrett as people that really have used the figure 4 leg lock as a signature. And one thing to kind of get out of the way I thought was funny is Jarrett uses the stroke, which is what The Miz uses as the skull-crushing finale. And then Jeff used to use the figure 4, and Miz is now using the figure 4. So it's kind of like The Miz is pulling a Jeff Jarrett here. And that.
But you know what makes the difference between Jarrett and The Miz?
Well, Miz won a world title in the WWE. Or is that where you're going?
And he actually puts more butts on seats than Jarrett did. And Jarrett actually bought his own company just to get himself to main event. Shock horror.
So when it comes to
going back to the figure 4, there's two very important names that are missing from your list. One of them is the original Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers.
Correct.
Oh my God!
The other one is Greg the Hammer Valentine.
And we talked about this before the show started, and I don't remember Greg the Hammer Valentine really doing it. But then again, I'm totally not the person to...
Greg the Hammer Valentine's just not a memorable guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I'm not the... You could ask me...
when he tagged with the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah,
yes.
I cannot remember jack shit about Greg the Hammer Valentine's career. He's just somebody...
No offense, you can't remember jack shit about yesterday, so, your memory's not that great.
Oh, my memory's awesome if I care.
I'm just saying that you're getting old.
Well, all right, I won't argue against that. But so my experience with Greg the Hammer Valentine, I don't remember the figure 4 at all, so I would immediately rule him out as a potential winner for this, just because I don't remember it. You know what I mean?
The only reason I think it's significant is because he took it in a new direction for a heel, because he kind of played the Bob Orton cast gimmick with it by wearing this shin guard, which the announcers, who I guess would have been Gorilla Monsoon at the time, would put over as saying, oh, it's putting extra pressure on that leg. He's going to break it. And as a matter of fact, he did break the leg of Chief Jay Strongbow with that very move. Whose leg did Ric Flair break?
Probably
his own. After doing a knee drop on a Coke can.
At the very least, he probably just bled all over the place instead.
I could just see him doing it on like a TV show like Teletubbies.
What, bleeding or the figure four?
Just bleeding all over the place.
He really needs some money.
Yeah, it really does.
So, does anybody else remember Greg the Hammer doing it?
Just very vaguely. Like you, I don't remember a whole lot of his career, but I definitely remember the figure four being his like signature finish most of the time.
He was the guy in WWE who did it because WWE didn't have Ric Flair, so it was okay for them to have a guy.
This way. How many championships did Greg the Hammer Valentine win in WWE?
Well,
48.
That's not fair because Greg the Hammer Valentine was around in the time of Hulk Hogan.
Right. Yeah,
How many
if it would have been a
times
brand split, it would have been a different story.
But Flair was around the time of Hogan, and Flair won the WWE Championship.
Flair was in a completely different league by the time he got to the WWE than Greg Valentine.
And that was also
in his entire
career,
career.
and not the late 80s when it was the peak of Hulk Hogan. By 91, 92, Hulk Hogan was already fallen by the wayside.
Plus, he didn't look like the New Year's Eve baby, which is what I always used to compare Greg the Hammer Valentine to, because he looked like a very big newborn.
Well, that was the look back then. The 80s were full of fatties. It was a different time.
And newborns.
So we could probably rule out Greg the Hammer as a potential winner for this, right?
I think
I just wanted to mention him. He's probably not the winner, no.
No, he deserves to be mentioned if I totally forgot about him. And like I totally forgot about Buddy Rogers. I don't know how I did, but
especially with him actually being the original Nature Boy on top of using figure four.
Yeah, I think I actually did the post at like
Buddy Rogers replacing Jeff Jarrett, because Jeff Jarrett's career has been pointless. Even I think the only time it meant something was when he married Karen Angle.
I think that's a little
figure four
harsh.
His career.
You didn't like his
her,
long blonde hair, guitar playing days way back when.
Double J.
Don't piss him off.
Yeah, he's responsible for giving us the Road Dog.
Yeah.
No, the Road Dog is responsible for giving us the Road Dog, and that wasn't a happy occasion with him singing all over the place. I spend my days working hard on the go.
Well, see, I personally, before we talk about Buddy Rogers, before we talk about Buddy Rogers, if we're on the Jeff Jarrett subject, I grew up more so a fan of the new generation WWF, and I was always more of a WWF fan than a WCW fan. So Flair to me was kind of like this outsider a little bit. I actually, for a while, to me, Jeff Jarrett was the person with the figure four. Now, over time, when I started actually finding out who the hell Ric Flair is, it completely surpassed it. And I'll go on the record right here. Ric Flair's getting my vote for the winner of this.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Jeez, all the drama's gone now.
Yeah, everybody just skips now to the
Yeah, but
outro.
we didn't really explain why.
Right.
I explained to you why.
For Jarrett,
How many
do that when we get
Jarrett
to him.
put on the seats?
For
How
Jarrett,
many
though,
people?
when it comes to like a finishing move, I eventually, over the years, signified just a guitar over the head, more so than the figure four.
That's how important he was. He could easily replace the figure four, a submission move that was used to take out giants and take out guys like Hulk Hogan. And he replaces it with a guitar to the head. That just shows you how important Jarrett was. And the funny thing about that was, as soon as he had his head shaved and went with the whole "don't piss me off" gimmick, he was a viable mid-carder. But he never actually went to the main event with the figure four leg lock. So I would give it more to Flair. But the same being said, Flair gave everything more meaning. Jarrett just didn't really give anything any meaning.
Who has anything positive to say about Jarrett, if anybody does, with the figure four?
Well, I can't because he rarely ever finished matches with it, didn't he?
Yeah, rarely.
Did he ever? Was it more than just a rare occurrence whenever he got somebody to tap out with that? Usually, he was always pinning people, whether it was after hitting them with the guitar or the stroke or whatever other move he used for a finishing move. I don't really remember him having a steady run where he was consistently successfully using the figure four leg lock to finish matches.
Or knocking Shawn Michaels out and making him lose his smile for the 20th time.
It was a rest hold to Jarrett, like you're saying. Except for in the early days of long-haired Jarrett, where he may have won with it sometimes, he never finished a match with the figure four.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So how could you, if it's just like barely a signature move, how could you be considered the greatest user of it? You know?
That's where you've hit the nail on the head there, Braden, because there's a difference between a finisher and a signature.
Exactly, and I wanted to keep it as signature moves included, not just it needs to be their sole finisher. Because if you keep it sole finisher, it's going to.
Then you're not going to have a whole lot of people.
That's where the Miz is getting it wrong as well, because you've got a move that's defined Flair, and he kind of passed it over to Miz in a kind of shitty way with that Miz TV segment.
Well, I'll give Miz a little bit of credit here that Miz hasn't had it long at all. Now, I highly doubt he's going to make an impact with the move to where that's going to be the Miz's move. And something I brought up on the post on the website was when you do the figure four right now, people start chanting "woo." They don't chant "ain't I great" like what Jeff Jarrett used to have as his catchphrase. And I highly doubt that in the future, 10 years from now, we're going to look back and anytime somebody puts a figure four on, they're going to start chanting "really." And I like the Miz. I don't think that the figure four is a move for him, though. And I don't think that in the grand scheme of things...
I'm pretty sure the last time I saw the Miz try to put on a figure four, I was going, really? Really?
Well, yeah. That's a good point.
No, but the thing about it, though, is the Miz is defined by his mic skills, not his ring work. And that's the whole thing, regardless of... You could make him the most technically gifted wrestler on the planet. He's still going to be defined with and I'm the Miz, and I'm awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got over based on how good he could talk.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Although, to be fair, and I will give him credit, he's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good in the ring.
He's got the best DDT in the business right now. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but he's not going to be the guy, well, unless you count McIntyre, who has an awesome double arm DDT. But
he has wrestling matches?
Does he even use that anymore? He's a member of 3MB. I didn't think band members use DDTs.
Yeah, he got hurt, remember? We're looking for his replacement.
Oh, right. Yes.
And
McIntyre's finisher right now is laying on the mat when somebody pins him.
Counting the lights.
Right.
That's the thing, though. When you come down to it, the Miz is not defined by a signature move or finisher or anything like that. He's defined by what he says on the mic.
Not yet. A signature move is a very important part to a total character, though, and until he gets that, he's kind of like an incomplete package.
Yeah, but the problem is
going to work with him.
He needs something that defines him. He doesn't need something that defines someone else.
Right.
And as Tony's put it out there, everyone goes woo every time that move goes on. It's like when Jarrett was using it, people were going woo, but Jarrett was trying to cover it up by going woo himself. Like, look, they're cheering for me. No, they're not, Jarrett. They're cheering for Flair.
I'm going to counter your point there when they're doing the exact same thing with somebody else who is in a similar situation. A man by the name of Dolph Ziggler, who is also, he's got things that's getting him over, no problem, but he never really had that move that was,
Yeah, but I've never heard.
And now he's got the
super kick out. When he uses a super kick, you don't hear people chant "sexy boy" or say anything.
HBK.
Yeah,
well,
nothing like that.
There wasn't really any type of synonymous thing like that with him. I mean, Flair, it's just something that people caught on. I mean,
yeah,
there's just some things that catch on with the audience. Woo, yes, what? These are things that the crowd will get into.
Singular words.
Yeah, but
keep it simple for the audience.
And also, you suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with Mike's point there about, there's not the HBK chant to go along with it. And I actually, as much as I like the idea of Ziggler using the super kick, I'd rather him have something that he can make his own.
Well,
and I think Miz, too, needs that.
He uses the zigzag, right? Which is a variation of Billy Gunn's famouser.
No, the zigzag's the
thing where he grabs your head and jumps, backwards with it.
Yeah, I forget exactly what it's called. It's kind of like a Russian.
I think Shelton Benjamin did a move similar to it.
Yeah, so he grabs someone's head, puts that to the mat. That's his move. Then he uses the famouser. Then he uses the super kick. And he uses a sleeper, which is used by every wrestler and their mum. So in the end, he has nothing that defines himself. But you know what actually makes people pay attention to Dolph Ziggler? His ring work. He's got it all, and in the end, he's that good. He doesn't need a move to define him. The Miz, on the other hand, is trying to get a move that defines him, and you can't do that with him at the moment. And
but you can't do that with the figure four.
No, definitely not.
Like, if you're going to give him a move that defines him that somebody else used, it needs to be something that isn't so synonymous with somebody. Now, that kind of actually brings us to whether or not it's synonymous with one Nature Boy or the other, because we haven't talked about Buddy Rogers yet. I would go with, if you say the Nature Boy, you think Ric Flair more so. And if you say figure four, you think Ric Flair. So I automatically would rule out Buddy Rogers.
And is that a generational thing, though?
Yeah, it's a generational thing. It's an era before Tony even knew wrestling existed.
Right.
Basically.
I mean, you barely have these memories of Greg the Hammer Valentine. How are you going to remember Buddy Rogers?
Exactly. And so, but I think that is one of those problems that kind of, it's almost the reverse of what people do with movies, where a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's a classic. It's all instantly better. There's not a good movie that's come out since the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or whatever you end up. Depends on the person. And I think that it's kind of like a reverse stigma for that, where it's the old one, so it doesn't matter as much. I will never end up thinking of Buddy Rogers if you say Nature Boy. I'm always going to think Nature Boy Ric Flair, and I'm always going to think figure four Ric Flair.
But that's because of the level of attention that Flair's gotten in comparison to Buddy Rogers. Remember, Flair was touring as an NWA champion. That's not the Flair that Tony knows. The Flair that Tony knows is WCW's
right
/ WWE.
I know 92 WWF Flair onward.
But he's got an unfair advantage over Buddy Rogers because Buddy didn't have that platform.
Right.
And the only reason that myself and Mike know about him is because we're wrestling historians. We understand, like, we'd go back
and you're older.
Yeah.
So that helps a little bit.
I'm not
that much older.
No, I mean, you're not, your 40s or anything like that. But it's still like, I've got people that are a year younger than me, and they don't know a lot of the TV shows that I used to know.
I'm young enough to rock out.
Listen, here's my question. What about some of these younger guys who, I mean, like real young, like the 12-year-olds who are seeing the figure four for the first time by The Miz? What if they're like you were when you were younger and you thought that Jeff Jarrett was the guy associated? What if they really think The Miz is the guy associated with that move now?
That'll be interesting. I don't think any of them watch the show, but if they are out there, they should comment.
It'd be great.
Oh, we have a special guest here.
Yeah, she's got I think she has a bit of a tummy ache again. Go get a drink of water, sweetie. Go
on. She's complaining because she associates The Miz with the figure four.
Yeah, she's voting Flair as well.
All right, well, would anybody go with Rogers over Flair?
No.
I don't feel like I'm qualified to really make that judgment, to be honest.
I am. And I would say national TV platform beats touring platform. It's the same thing where if you look at Bruno Sammartino and people are saying, well, Bruno Sammartino is a guy that packed out MSG once a month. Yeah, but that's once a month. You've got to compare his reign to a guy like CM Punk who's been wrestling every single day, every single week, every single show. And the schedule there is different in comparison to the show that Sammartino had. So there's no comparison. Punk would beat Sammartino in that perspective, and Flair beats Rogers in a perspective that he had a broader audience. You can't sit there and say, Buddy Rogers needs considering. Most of the people are going to be sitting there going, Buddy who?
Rogers.
And the one reason is that people are going to know who Flair is, and how you're going to have those, as you said, Mike, those little 12-year-olds who will know who Flair is, because the WWE is going to keep putting his face out there as the originator of the figure four, even though he isn't. Like the Sheik's the inventor of the camel clutch, when he's not.
Well, on the website right now, I have a poll up for this one. I forgot to do that for the old Superstar score thing. But we have 8 votes right now. 1 for Jarrett, 1 for Miz, and 6 for Flair. So factoring us in here, my vote goes to Flair. What about you, Braden?
My vote goes to Flair because, like you, he had the big spotlight on the move. Like, as Mike was alluding to earlier, he kind of was able to use it as his finisher on a grander scale, so a lot more people were introduced to it that way. Like, when I hear or see the figure four, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Flair's move. Even though I know he didn't create it, I know he didn't innovate it, but he's kind of the one who introduced the move to me, if that makes any sense. Like, he's kind of the guy who, when I was watching, would use it week in and week out and defeat people with it. And it's like, oh yeah, he perfected it. He can win matches with it. It's his move. To me, just the I can't really call it mainstream because wrestling doesn't really go that mainstream, but
Actually,
he made it popular on a
water.
bigger scale than Buddy Rogers used it before him, and he's done it better, and it's been around. He's been using it for years. When it's like the Jarretts and the Miz's and people like that who maybe used it once in a while or used it as a signature move or just started using it. It's kind of, in a way, unfair to compare them to Flair because of how long his career was and how long he actually used the submission maneuver for.
Let me ask everybody a question here.
It's fair to
for
Flair.
Fans and also for the guys on the show here. Name me a Buddy Rogers match apart from his match against Flair for the Nature Boy gimmick.
Is this for us or is this for the people on the
It's for you guys and everybody out there. And I bet no one can give me an answer unless they Google it. Which I think Mike's
off the
probably
top of my
doing.
head, I can't think of any.
Yeah, and that's what you got to think of.
Although I guess you could kind of go, well, him against San Martino.
The way I see it is I'm voting Flair. It's the same reason why I wouldn't vote Bruno Sammartino over any of the guys that are on national television because their schedule's bigger than Bruno's. And as far as I'm concerned, the fact that the guy's overshadowing Foley in the Hall of Fame and he's going to be the headliner is ridiculous. And a lot of people are going to be sitting there going, "Oh, you're just a Smark." Well, it's a fact. You've got guys out there who have done a lot more with their time as wrestlers. I know Bruno set the standard, but there's other guys who've done a lot more than Bruno Sammartino, and the same thing goes for Flair. He did a lot more than Rogers on a national scale, so I'm voting Flair.
All right, Peyton. I just got one point I also got to say here. You're going to complain about Bruno going in when we got people like Bob Uecker and
okay, let me explain
Terry's
something.
in there, isn't he? Like,
let me have any of them. It's the same with the whole issue of the Hall of Fame ring. What's his name? Like selling his bloody ring on
Eddie
eBay.
Graham, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
Billy Graham.
Right. The fact that he shouldn't even be with the Hall of Fame class, he did it for the money, and we all know he did it for the money. And the same thing goes for Bruno. Bruno's a fucking hypocrite.
Sure he didn't do it for The Rock?
He sat there and he shat all over the WWE on more than one occasion, and now he's going into the Hall of Fame. And the only reason that he's going in is because guys like Triple H feel that Bruno Sammartino legitimizes the WWE Hall of Fame. That's the only reason he's going in. It's a business decision. But I'm not happy about it because the guy's a hypocrite. It's the same if Warrior went in after all the shit that he said about the WWE. And then he goes into the Hall of Fame.
Though. That's the problem with a privatized Hall of Fame. It's a business Hall of Fame. It's not a committee-based Hall of Fame. You can't expect these legitimate entries. Getting back to the topic at hand, I guess I'm the last one to vote on this between Rogers and Flair. I said before I don't know if I'm qualified for this. I'm going to say Flair as well. But once again, it's a generational thing. And I think in 50 to 100 years, when the Flair fever has kind of worn off because he's still so fresh in our heads, it's going to be a little bit tougher to say. I think it's going to be, depending on, of course, if WWE still pushes Flair like they do now, then yeah, people are going to say Flair. But time will tell, I guess.
That's the one thing that Flair has, regardless of whoever else takes that gimmick or any of his moves or uses any of his repertoire. He has a machine behind him that will keep him as a focal point in our minds. Even when he left the WWE and he had all these issues like with his finances and stuff, he was still in everybody's minds. And to do that and to basically be that cemented into pop culture, the same thing with Hogan. Hogan's cemented in pop culture, but he's not cemented in as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. No, he's cemented in as the guy who takes pictures of his daughter's leg, and his wife is bedding a child much younger than her, who's he's that Hogan, and he's played with all these shits and sex tapes with him going brother, 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 brother. But with Flair, no matter how bad Flair's gotten, no matter what he's been pulled over for, he's still known as Ric Flair, the Nature Boy.
Well, that's going to end us with the figure four talk for finisher versus finisher. Make sure you guys say what you think of the topic in the comments. If you're pro Buddy Rogers, pro Jeff Jarrett, pro Miz, pro Valentine, pro anybody else that we might have, you might be thinking that there's some independent guy who, a couple years from now, he's going to be the main one or something like that. I doubt it. But...
for anybody who believes in anybody but Flair, you're wrong.
So go ahead and tell us your comments. That's going to bring us into the plugs with the Sign Me Up, which you should know by now. You bring a Smark Out Moment sign to any wrestling event of any sort and send a picture or video of it to me, and I'll put it up on Smack Talk. And obviously the same old stuff you see at the end of the outro, outonlimbs.com, fanboysanonymous.com, the Bleacher Report, and Comic Book Movie, and all that other kind of crap. Move on to Spood Beast.
Okay, so just basically subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's www.youtube.com/SpoodBeast for the latest in gaming, mainly Nintendo, but we also touch upon PlayStation and never Xbox. So just, for Xbox fans, that's a way to immediately turn you off from my channel because I never talk about it. So yeah, who wants to go after me?
Brandon.
Oh, yes. But yeah, but you play Nintendo too, so I kind of have you somewhat on the fence.
I'm a tweener.
Yeah, exactly.
www.nerdgenius.com, NERDGENIOUS. If you like what I do on Smark Out Moment, I want to see more of me, go on to youtube.com/thenerdgenius.
I think that they've seen enough of you in the first part of this episode.
And if you think that I should be a member of the three-man band, please send that tape to Vince McMahon. And hopefully he'll get back to me. Vince, just talk money. Get me in the Hall of Fame. I'm about as hairy as Bruno, so that would help. And I'm about as funny as Heath Slater. So yeah, that's me, guys. And also, if you can donate a little bit of money, you got some money lying around. I'm currently accepting donations for a feature film I'm making. It's not like I'm asking you to support a crappy game or a shitty Kickstarter or anything else so I can collect your money like Cheetah Man 2. What I'm asking is just a small little donation if you can, of $5. Any little helps. I need a new laptop because the one I've got at the moment is dying and it is on its last legs, and I need help mentally.
In more ways than one.
Yes.
Peyton?
I'm Mike Payton. I am here from Newbie TV. You can find us all around the web at www.new-b.tv or on Facebook for NEWB TV. What we are is we are original entertainment for people who are into the nerd cultures. We create original series based around video games, comic books, movies, cartoons, all that kind of stuff. We premiered our first series a couple weeks ago called Two Oafs with Lawn Chairs, which involves two idiot Southern guys. I don't even know how to describe it anymore. I've been trying to think of an original way every time I talk about it. They go to Aperture Laboratories looking for a way to get rich quick, and hijinks ensue. And we're premiering a new episode this weekend of another series called 6-Star Support, which involves an IT specialist getting calls from colorful characters. And in this week, he will get a call from Christopher Walken. And that's that. So thanks for having me on again, Anthony. That's all.
And that rolls us out for episode 66. Now, episode 67 is going to have the specialty post of whether or not Alberto Del Rio is better as a heel or a face. And, of course, we're going to have the usual Ask Him and hot tags. And if I remember correctly, I think that's going to be the Elimination Chamber predictions, too. So That's gonna fill up pretty nicely, and then we'll move on with the Elimination Chamber review and the monthly mailbag on the 22nd edition. So send us your questions for the mailbag and any kind of information you guys want to know about us and all that kind of stuff. Then we'll move on to all the WrestleMania stuff from March 1st onward. So that does us in for this episode. This is another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out. Adios, everybody. Somebody's gonna get an outro. Nobody's gonna get an intro. Somebody's gonna get an outro. Nobody's gonna get an intro. Time to go, end the show, time to go, end the show, time to go, end the show, time to go. I never need a job, how could I be scared of McMahon? I walk through YouTube like I run this land. Never can you imagine the pain that I bring to the WWE every week. It's the same, it's the SMARK in here, smartest mark in the world, and I have no fear. We're the mean of the mean, the Nightmare Team, fuck Ultimate Warrior and Lillian G, yeah. Jesus Christ.
What? Uh-huh.
Should I keep going the old
Outro.
Yes,
I'm a crazy motherfucker and I'm coming through the door.
Yeah. Outro.
Oh yeah.